signals have come out to play as Bitcoin approaches its highest price level since the SBF, FTX, Sweet Caroline mega dumpulation of early November 2022, as Bitcoin attempts its first bust of the 200 DMA for the first time in nearly a year. But with the baby bears right now battered, bruised, and covered in their own sloppy seconds, can the Moon Boys continue to bust the bears into submission? So sit back, buckle your bootstraps, and give your granny a big ol' smooch, cause it's time to bust. Right now, the Bitcoin price continues to inch, squinch, and climb its way slowly up these charts ever so very bigly after breaking 17, 18, and now 19,000 US dollars in what is to be considered the biggest pump of the last month and a half. But there are a lot of things to be watching out for, and a lot of very, in fact, just bullish things happening right now. And the big question, is this the disbelief rally? Is this the most hated rally? Is this, in fact, the pump that completely dumped on the baby bears? Or is this just basically a little baby squeeze that will quickly get busted back down to oblivion? And that really is the big question here. So looking at Bitcoin's chart, there are very big things that are happening and that have happened on these charts on some shorter time frames like the daily and the longer like the weekly and monthly that are absolutely impossible to ignore. And before we look at that, let's take a look at this. So the RSI on the daily has busted to the upside. But if we take a look at the RSI on the weekly, there is still a ton of room to run. And in fact, we've seen things like this in the past, especially when pretty much having the bottom bust. The bottom bust being kind of after usually spending multiple months at a bottom range, we have that first big bust to the upside where it changes everything. And what I mean by that is something like this, right? I mean, I remember back in 2018, we saw the same thing. This is the bottom range right here, this entire area. And then we had the first week of April, basically, of 2019, what I would consider and what everyone considers the bottom bust. And once the bottom bust happens, you basically don't look back. And that's potentially what we're seeing right now, okay? The bottom bust. It's a very big signal, and it's truly one of the most powerful signals here. So, I mean, even going back, we can go back and we can look at some of these other bottom busts here. Basically, also back in October of 2015. Once we see the bottom bust, what that truly indicates is we don't look back. And that's the biggest question right now, because it's the most important question. Because if this truly is the bottom bust, then we're going to see a lot more liquidations, and we're going to see a lot higher of a price for Bitcoin over these next few weeks. Okay, and that really is basically right now the only important question is that what we're about to see. We've had roughly about like 5 or 6 massive legs down of the last year plus of this bear market. And are we in the midst of witnessing the first real relief, the first real bottom bust? And there have been many attempts over the last year, and they have all failed. And what this chart represents is potentially our very first actual attempt. And since we've broken 17, 18, 19,000 again, as we've kind of climbed up out of this range, more and more signals are telling us that actually it's very possible that this is truly the bottom bust. And so again, like looking on this weekly chart, we have broken, so importantly, the 21-week moving average, which sat right at about 18,500. Now, I do expect some sort of retest of that. I don't think we're going straight up. I mean, as I mentioned just a minute or two ago, the RSI usually resets on very short time frames, but that absolutely does not mean the pumpulation is over, especially on these bottom busts. On the bottom busts, the RSI tends to run a little bit further than expected on like the daily time frames. And again, besides this weekly time frame, which just looks very good, and we've been watching this bullish divergence for it was like a 6-month bullish divergence that we've been forming. So again, there is potentially a lot of power beneath this move. Now, that doesn't mean that we're not going to get a pullback. Could we go back to 18,000? Could we go back to even 17,000? It's possible, and that does not invalidate this bottom bust, as long as it doesn't set a lower low. That's basically the point here. However, I think there's so much momentum behind this move right now, but we do have to be realistic that we are coming now on, as we talked about yesterday, the 200-day moving average, which sits at about 19,005, which is a big level. And obviously, we have the $20,000 level, which is by far a ginormous level that needs to be watched. Okay, so the 19,005 is just ginormous. And again, if we take a look on the, if we look at the weekly chart here, these levels, 20,000, you can see this is going to be huge. The VPVR, this is the point of control of like the last 2 years, right at about 20,000. It's ginormous. So we're coming up on that level. So basically, things are looking like they could flip very bullish very, very quickly. However, in my opinion, I absolutely believe that it will be very bullish if and only if we can concretely break 20,000. At this point, it is very clear cut for us. It's very obvious. 20,000 is gigantic. And it is a level that ultimately will be a massive confirmation of the bulls or a confirmation of the bears if we get rejected there. I mean, again, we've busted so quickly over just the past few days that now we are approaching that $20,000 level where everything kind of basically everything hangs in the balance. The entirety of this move hangs in the balance. And again, as we approach this 200 DMA right at about 19.5, again, we have some significant hurdles. I would be honestly surprised if we just went straight through it. I don't think that's likely. But again, as we know, the market is heavily short right now. A lot of people are still expecting Bitcoin to go much, much, much lower, and a lot of people really don't believe in this pump. It is a very silent rally, which is exactly kind of what you want to see when looking for the bottom bust that I mentioned. You kind of want to see indifference, people not really care about what's going on, disinterest. There's still very low engagement. A lot of people left the space and they still haven't returned. And unfortunately for them, they'll return when Bitcoin's at like 40, 50, 60K or something like that, right? And they miss the optimum buying opportunity, but that's exactly how these markets work. That's exactly how human psychology works, and I don't think that will ever change. Because more so than anything, analyzing markets and looking at everything is just a reflection of human psychology at the very simplest level. And will human psychology change as a whole? Absolutely not. I don't think so. Can you change your psychology and train yourself to make better decisions and to end up taking advantage and making more money in a market? 100%. That's possible, but that's up to you as an individual. Is the entire world going to change its psychology and all of a sudden get better at? I mean, it's silly. Very unlikely. It's very unlikely. Humans as a group are very predictable, and that is basically what these markets echo. However, I absolutely do believe in your individual capacity to change, to get better, and to learn how to just basically learn, right? To learn so that you can be more profitable in these markets. And again, if we take a look on the daily chart with Bitcoin, you can see, I mean, we are in a very interesting spot where we have truly broken out of this downtrend line significantly with some very convincing price action for the first time since we entered the bear market, okay? For the first time in well over a year. Actually, for the first time in about, 13 or 14 or so months. So again, it's big. We're going to get retests probably. We can't get only excited. But again, this is more exciting for the medium term because over the next few weeks and month or so, this really does give us the opportunity to reclaim 20,000, even 24,000 and above, ultimately, which could lead to the $30,000 range if things go very well, if CPI continues to come back not very hot and predictable, if it comes back predictable, and if the stock market is able to not be bad here. We see the stock market honestly not looking horrible. We have it's going to be closed for the weekend, obviously, and I believe the holiday on Monday. But the DXY, again, it just does not look strong. It continues to break down range after range. We've been watching it. The next big range is around the 100 level, which is huge, okay, psychologically and also support and resistance-wise. It is very, very big. So it is a level that it is the level basically where it got rejected when the bull run started in March of 2020. So it's a very, very big level. I expect there might be a bounce there that could last a while, that might take the steam out of the baby bulls and take away their confidence. So we have to watch out for that. But, again, the way things are turning, these are still the very, very early signs that potentially the market is shifting in a much more bullish manner, in a much more positive trajectory, upward trajectory. but these are still the very first signs, so it's not going to only be straight up. Yes, channel, thanks for watching. Channel just me some absolutely time-sensitive alerts. Take advantage of absolutely massive bonuses with Bybit and BitGet below. Specifically, if you sign up with the links to Bybit below, 0 trading fees on Bybit, which is huge, in addition to the welcome and deposit bonuses of well over $40,000 as well. Additionally, $30 simply by putting in a email and password, and that's it. No KYC or anything like that. And without any further ado, that is it for me.